Well guys, we have some crazy awesome news today. Just look at this historical image of how Ukrainian drone boat shuts down the Russian fighter jet Sukhoi Su-30SM, which was there on purpose to actually hit this drone, but instead drone hit the aircraft. We have the legit image presented by the drone cameras. The Russian side has already confirmed this huge loss for them. And according to initial information, the Russian pilot also was zeroed. Hello my friends and welcome, my name is Dennis and this is the latest update from Ukraine. Let's go. In his usual evening speech, President Zelensky has confirmed that Ukraine was definitely successful in hitting Russian fighter jet using the drone boat. And yeah, historically it's the first case like that. The missile from the drone boat shuts down the jet airplane. Before those were helicopters and now airplane. Fully functional freaking fighter jet with lots of the defense systems, but those didn't help. Moreover, President Zelensky mentioned that Ukraine hit the second airplane in Crimea. How was it done? Well, we are still waiting for the image to come with confirmation. The Russian Sukhoi Su-30SM is definitely a capable machine and Russia built many of those. And it's not the first time that Russia uses those airplanes against the Ukrainian drone boats. Well, before sometimes they were successful, but yeah, Ukraine found out the feature of how to deal with that threat for the drone boat. So drone boats really matter. I honestly do not see any sort of the option for the Russian army to cope with the drone threat from Ukraine. And the Ukraine definitely managed to basically cancel the Russian advantage in using their navy in the Black Sea, just with the help of those tools. And yeah, of course, Neptune anti-ship missiles, that is what Moskva flagship felt. Well, actually, the Ukrainian drone boats were going to the Russian Novorossiysk port before there were aerial drone strikes of Ukrainian long-range drones, and the drone boats were sent to the area as the reinforcement. This map was shared by the Russian sources, so here they confirmed the place where their airplane was shot down by Ukrainian drone boat. It happened 50 kilometers away from the port of Novorossiysk. They also show this image of the drone with missile on the top, but if missile is not being used, it means that it's not the same drone. Or maybe there are two of the missiles. However, the second airplane, Zelensky said, was kaboomed on territory of Crimea. Maybe it was even the Ukrainian FPV drone strike on Saki airfield or on Belbek near Sevastopol. And by the way, the airplane which Ukrainian drone shot down was based in Saki airfield, Crimea. And guys, again, Ukraine launched the massive drone strike on Crimea, hitting lots of the Russian military facilities. I have tons of those images and I want to share those with you after I'm gonna speak about a very important topic. Indeed, it is important for me personally because here I want to speak about the long-term partner of this channel, Ground News. I use this news aggregator every day to be updated on the news, not just from Ukraine, but from around the world. I open it every morning and I check the most fresh information. So I highly recommend to check it out using my personal link. It's ground.news/Dennis. You may find it in video description below. And what I also like about the Ground News that they have the dedicated chapter for the news from Ukraine. And yeah, according to the latest information, Russia continued to strike Ukrainian civilian infrastructure. It happens every night. According to Zelensky, Russia launched almost 1,000 drones the last week. But the good news here that Zelensky discussed with Donald Trump the participation in the air defense program of Ukraine, and definitely it was agreed as the part of the mineral deal. By the way, we also have the great news about that one, so Ukraine will obtain lots of the funds. It looks like supporting Ukraine, first of all, air defense. But here I want to show you the construction of the Ground News website. They also have fantastic application for mobile devices. So yeah, we have the news article, the brief explanation, and the number of the sources reported about the news, 84. It's quite a lot. Then you have the bias distribution. You may check all of the major media sources report about the case. Also, we have the factual to report. It's pretty much high, and I always use this parameter to define whether the news is legit or not. I also usually check the articles with very high factuality or high factuality in those reports. So by clicking here, you access the original article. Here you may see that Zelensky and Trump discussed the air defense capabilities of Ukraine plus sanctions applied on Russia during the short meeting in Vatican, and it was really a productive meeting. Honestly, after it, we see the change of rhetorics of the White House. They start to speak about sanctions really applied on Russia, plus Ukraine obtained some of the support for the F-16 fighter jets, and yeah, Ukraine actually may obtain more Patriots. I hope and pray for it. For now, the signals coming are good, and hopefully they will resolve the problem with the Ukrainian air defense. And by the way, you may also check out the news agency ownership, and also you may open this map showing where the news originates from. The Ground News is not a big media corporation, they rely just on our subscriptions, and I subscribe on the Ground News even before I start to work with them in a partnership, because definitely they provide a good quality product which I use for my job and just to be updated on the worldwide news. So my friends, I highly recommend to check out my personal link in the video description just below. It's ground.news/Dennis, where you may get the 40% of discount for your subscription, and I recommend to check out the Vantage plan because it gives you the full access for all of the features of the Ground News. And guys, by checking out the link, you also support the job that I do here on YouTube. So thank you so much for your kind support. And also thank you Ground News for being the long-term partner and also the sponsor of my channel and this video. And now let's go back to our topic with Crimea on fire. There is the Ukrainian military intelligence drone unit, it is called Primari, so ghosts, and they regularly update us with something really interesting. For example, there was the Russian antenna, radar P-18, that was kaboomed by FPV. Yeah, definitely Ukraine was successful here, and this strike is used for electrical supply, and this one just to carry this antenna. Yeah, that's the radar, we may see what happened to it, and one more Russian track. And here we have one more radar system which also was kaboomed. One more radar system, Podlot K1, and the same one from the other perspective. Nebau, it's the very sophisticated system, by the way, and very expensive. You might see what happened to it over here, it sustained drastic damages. And here's the Russian military tugboat that was hit by FPV, but you understand that FPV would not cause significant damage to the boat. However, there could be some of the sensitive equipment on this control deck. Damaging one could disable the ship for a very long time. And here we have the helicopter Mi-8. And from the location, I may say that probably it's Kacha Airport, the Russian military base. Kabooms were reported there not long time ago. So with all of those strikes, definitely Ukraine cancels the capabilities of the Russian army surveillance. As the outcome, Ukrainian long-range drones are able to go inside Crimea and Novorossiysk port even. Yeah, Ukraine is still not able to cancel the Russian surveillance completely, but it's on the way to reach that. The main issue is still the range of those FPV drones. They may fly for around 15 up to 20 kilometers from the mother drone boat, which is somewhere near the coast usually. But to reach further, well, you need to have the different system. For example, Ukraine could use Lancet-style 50-kilometer range drones. And yeah, Ukraine has those in production, and I think that it's the next step of evolution of the drone boat usage. And one more issue, that Russia still tries to attack Ukrainian drone boats with the help of their fighter jets, as you saw, and helicopters. And unfortunately, in many of the cases, they are successful, so they cancel the entire FPV drone operation. But yes, with their losses, Russia now has to take precautions, and they afraid really of those drone boats. Well, still the most popular feature for Russia is to use those machine guns against the drones, but they are lucky in this case because the drone was not equipped with the air defense missile. And yeah, they managed to kaboom it, but the good thing that there is just a drone, there is no one inside, and Ukraine still may produce many of those. But those drones definitely may cause tremendous harm for Russians. Well, Russians continue to complain that the United States of America helps Ukraine with air surveillance. For example, by the time the drone strikes were happening in Novorossiysk port and in Crimea, the United States Air Force surveillance airplane P-8A Poseidon was flying in the airspace of Romania, which is, I would say, not that far away from Crimea, so the efforts of allies and Ukraine clearly were coordinated. The big issue for the Russian military that they still don't have those modern-day surveillance airplanes, like for example this one. It's the C-295 surveillance and transport aircraft made by Airbus, and yet has the radar and gimbal camera on the front. The airplane is very capable, and as you can see, it even has some sort of the missile. What Russia has are those ancient Bereev BE-12 airplanes, arguably the most ugly airplanes ever produced. And yeah, they have big antennas, but those cannot detect the drone boats, because the drone boats are very small targets. And because of that, Russia has to go visually with the drone boats very close to the targets, and they use their fighter jets in a very close proximity as well, and that might lead to the losses of those fighter jets. They are simply not designed for those kind of the missions. Russia has to have some sort of the drone to fight against the drone boats. That's the only way out. The drones like MQ Reaper or Iran has Mojahed 6. And even Russia has that drone, it's called Orion, but they need surveillance. They need radar to define the drone boat at first. With that, they have absolutely tremendous issues. And you know, I check out also Russian military bloggers, their propaganda, and they're very sad about the recent case happened to their fighter jet. One of the main Russian military bloggers, Slotkov, writes that I'm very sad about us. We've been hit hard. We've been hit like flies, he said. Our navy and military doesn't know where to hide, he says about Crimea because of the Ukrainian drone strikes. And here he complains about the lack of the facilities in the Russian army to compensate the threat that Ukraine has created. And close to the bottom he asks the question of whether we need peace or ceasefire. Well, he comes out with conclusion that in the current realities there will be less and less people who are willing to fight. Guys, you see how definitely successful Ukrainian drone strikes may issue huge debate in the Russian military blogger community and lower morale of the Russian army. More good news coming. United Kingdom has supplied to Ukraine all of its AS-90 self-propelled artillery systems. Yeah, UK is so dedicated with that. That system is still superb, it's a good one, and the Ukrainian warriors have been trained to operate those. Awesome news are coming from France as well. They will produce 1,200 of those guided aviation gliding bombs, and they'll supply all of that to Ukraine this year. Ukraine still has many of the airplanes to operate with those gliding bombs, but unfortunately roughly 3 days ago Ukrainian Sukhoi 27 was shot down, but luckily pilot managed to eject. I do not recall if I noticed that in one of my videos. And yeah, losing the airplane is the huge loss for Ukrainian Air Force, but the main thing that pilot is okay. Alright, the closer we are to the military parade in Moscow, the more news appear in internet and also coming from the mass media and officials. For example, yesterday Zelensky stated that the Ukrainian side doesn't guarantee any sort of the security for the leaders coming to visit Moscow's parade. Few hours later, the Russian media reported that probably Fico and Vucic, they are not coming to visit Moscow's parade because they feel unwell. They're basically sick. Mommy, I'll stay home, I'll not go to parade. That's their excuse. By the way, Indian side also say that they will not participate the event. Well, maybe because of the tensions between India and Pakistan. But do you really think that Putin is capable to really provide security for those participants of his parade? I don't think so. Especially then there was actually the case happened a couple of years ago, then Ukrainian drone hit one of the main buildings of Kremlin, and it was really close to the Russian Great Celebration Day. And Dmitry Medvedev already went drunk and mad about rhetorics of Ukrainian President Zelensky. He used the word like scumbag over here, who doesn't want to negotiate with Russia for temporary peace on 9th of May, or ceasefire you may call it, plus he is unable to guarantee the security of our guests. Those are just words of provocation from Zelensky, and in case of the real provocation, they'll not wake up in Kiev on 10th of May, promised Dmitry Medvedev. Well, we'll see. Medvedev there is just as a clown, you know. His words do not really matter that much. And yeah, guys, again, Donald Trump's topic here, just making fun of him and his lunacy and idiocracy you have, guys, there in United States of America. This is the official page of the White House, which retweeted the Truth Social post created by Donald Trump, who in its turn used some sort of the AI generator to create the image of him as a pope. Alright, I should comment about that somehow, but I cannot find words really. I already mentioned them before, like lunacy, idiocracy. Some of the words I've told about Dmitry Medvedev actually fit here perfectly as well. I don't know, guys, it seems like evolution goes backwards if we have leaders like that. And not just leaders of some of the Zimbabwe countries. Sorry, Zimbabwe, I don't want to say bad words about you, but we have this complete buffoon idiot as the leader of the United States of America, the biggest military power, the biggest economy in the world, posting that stuff on his Truth Social, and then White House official account reposted that shit. And they say that they're Christians. With that, they just humiliate Christianity. Oh god, guys. It is crazy. Okay, should I comment about it? Yeah, that's the new Russian battle tractor. You can see that it has some of the armor plates. It has also Z symbol. It's the most important. And it was hit by FPV drone. A second freaking army in the world. As you can see, driver tried to jump at the very last moment. His destiny is basically unknown. Well, nevertheless, Russia sends everything, absolutely everything, to the front lines. And there are new attacks coming. For example, for the last 24 hours, Russia decided to send new reinforcements to Pokrov's direction, so they advance a little in Shevchenko. It was yesterday, it is today. Before, Ukrainian army was effective here with a counterattack, but Russia now tries to break initiative. Also, they expanded the gray zone over here, and they go also from Kotlarivka yesterday and today. They want to reach the border with Dnipropetrovsk Oblast, as I've told you many of the times. So Russia really wants to get the advantage, and actually they have the advantage in their crazy stupid attacks, but it may not continue for a very long time, because Russia is simply running out of everything. So this summer campaign will show the result for the next maybe couple of years. And guys, I don't honestly see the end of this war coming very soon. Unfortunately, it might go for even years. Yeah. At this stage, we already understand that peace negotiations with Putin are not possible, and it seems like even Donald Trump realizes that. The problem is still that he might abandon Ukrainian military support. And this year, front lines will depend on that, on whether Ukraine obtains enough capabilities to fight against Russia, enough military support, ammunition, and so on. We see that Europe is really dedicated to it, but United States, big question. Luckily, as I've told you, there are some of the good signs. Plus, President Zelensky yesterday said that United States could support Ukraine by 30 billion United States dollars, not the military, but other projects. However, I think Ukraine could invest those money into own military production or to purchase military equipment from the United States. I hope everything will be fine with that, but with Donald Trump's administration, you never know, never. And now, my friends, please don't forget to check out my personal link. It's ground.news/Dennis, where you may subscribe for the ground news, and I call you to do it, because that is how you also support the job that I do here, and you'll obtain the fresh news coming from all around the world, including Ukraine. So it's the good feature, awesome feature actually, that I use every day to be updated. My friends, it is must have, absolutely. And I wish you all a peaceful sky wherever you are. Have a great time.